So we're going to talk about the science of Elite Dangerous now. And Elite Dangerous has presented such a wonderful opportunity to explore what the galaxy, what the science is really like, and to get across all sorts of wonderful elements of it. I mean, people have heard endlessly that we've got a huge galaxy with 400 billion star systems. And, some people have said it should be 300 billion star systems, for example. But the beauty with science is you have to go on the best theories. And if you look at observations of the galaxy and the total mass of it, the figure we came up with was much closer to 400 billion when we tried simulating it. But this is the beauty with science, an exciting thing with science. But the point is you can visit all those systems, as a lot of people have. I find absolutely amazing that it's a tiny fraction of 1% of the star systems have been visited by players. And that's after we've been, more than 18 months now live in the world. The galaxy is so prodigiously big and so full of interesting things yet to be seen by people. The game's been around for a long time. We've got 2.2 coming in not too long now, which obviously we're all excited about. And I think just talking about that, the galaxy, one of the frustrations for me from a science point of view is we haven't done all the things we can do in the science, and we're improving it all the time. So for 2.2, we have white dwarfs, we have neutron stars, much better represented. We've done a lot of modelling of the magnetic fields, something called synchrotron radiation, which is accelerating jets out from the interaction between the magnetic pole and the rotational pole. So if I sort of animate it, you actually have something like a spinning top going around, and that causes particles to jet out. And it looks very different depending on the individual star. And it's trying to get the variation, when you sort of you come out of supercruise, you see the different stars. I actually find white dwarfs quite dangerous because you don't realise just how close you are to them for a few dangerous seconds. So those sort of things, they look different. They, of course, there's much more variation to them. There's the discovery effect of them. But with all of these things as well, it's how they affect gameplay, how they affect the sort of feeling of geography, the sense of where you are. And there are a lot of things as well coming, that I've talked about the galaxy and dust and the sort of the genuine science that we've been doing. That when we put together the galaxy, it was way too bright. So we've had to add lots and lots of dust, which you can see in the sky as you fly around. And that dust dims the galactic core and also dims the whole galaxy and gives a distant perspective, where depending on where you are above and below the galactic plane. But that's a lot more than I think science suggests should be there. So our galaxy is evolving, but it's evolving based on the science, but creates a wonderfully rich backdrop. People have asked me why bother with scientific accuracy, and I'm sure they have a point. Scientific accuracy really matters to me, but I know it matters to a lot of other people as well. It's like the difference between a fantasy or a fictional story where there's no grounding in reality, or to one where the setting might be the Second World War, or might be it might be some historical event that has meaning, even though elements of it are crafted above that as fiction. And I think so. For me personally, it makes a big difference, but I think it also doesn't hurt. Why not make it a realistic background? I think it gives lots of new vectors for gameplay as well, whether it's the heat mechanics in ships, where you get sort of new approaches that are based on real life and fact. But, even that aside, it's an interesting gameplay mechanic. I mean, what we've done with Elite Dangerous is the science is providing great ways of having the gameplay, of creating the variation, creating the geography, creating the differences. Looking at from planetary rings and the different styles there, the different things you can discover, to the wider things with the systems, how the sizes of the systems, what's there. I think that there's more and more to come, more and more detail. But to me, it matters because I love that side of things. I love almost the excuse to do it. But it's great because it does serve gameplay. Tectonics is something that we have done some modelling for even in 2.0, but it's improved in 2.1, but is getting much better, and it determines the locations of the volcanism. For those who don't know, as planets form, if you think of the planets starting off as covered in liquid, and then elements like eggshells form of hard sections of plates, those then float around on the lava. And Earth is still like that. Deep underground, there are these giant tectonic plates that all slowly move. And at the boundaries is where you get volcanoes and volcanism. And you get upwellings of lava and all sorts of things. That applies even to really cold planets, except it's not necessarily molten rock. It might be molten CO2, molten water. There are all sorts of different chemistries where the lava might be something like water, which very quickly hardens into ice. And it has different properties, but essentially it's the same sort of thing. They're still volcanoes, it's still volcanism. So they're called geysers and all sorts of other things, because often it jets out into space, and we can see that in our own solar system. But by our modelling, it's actually very, very common. And so those are the sort of things that are coming to 2.2 that you'll see. But those are also the things, as it jets out the water or whatever the substance is, nitrogen, that it carries up other things with it from deep within the planet. And those are the rares that you can discover. So they're not just brought in from outside by meteorites. So lots and lots of fun things to come, very, very exciting with respect to that. In terms of other things, obviously there's much more science to come. Because what we're doing is so vast, we have much more plans for populating things. I've mentioned atmospheres. Obviously, that's something that is on our roadmap to come. And what I've always wanted with these is to do them properly, and to do them essentially in a sensible way that serves the story and the background and the gameplay. One of the things that we always are trying to do is to advance the gameplay and to make sure there are lots of things for different styles of play. I mentioned exploration, combat. It's quite obvious how the science works there. The key thing is, the scanner works by electromagnetic emissions, so basically radiation. And we all radiate. Right now we're radiating heat mostly in the infrared band. And it therefore very, very easy to detect. Spaceships are the same. Even since World War II, it's been very, very normal. If you look at modern combat, for example, with image intensifiers, how easy it is to see a hot tank from a distance. So all sorts of things happen where on even tanks from the 70s, where they have what's often called infragreen, which is image intensification. There is a button you can press on the trigger of even as late as old as a chieftain, which goes to full infrared, where they have an arc light spotlight which highlights the scene. It can be used to target, and then when they release the button, a steel shutter comes across it to hide the infrared radiation, because it can be used by the other guys to target. Now, we do the same in Elite Dangerous. We have shutters over the cooling vents. But the cooling vents are really important in space, because you can't easily get rid of heat other than by radiating it. So, this whole stealth mechanic of basically holding your breath, closing the vents and all that sort of thing is very, very effective. So the point with this is we get stealth gameplay from science, if you like. But the point with this is the science is at the root of it and makes the gameplay interesting, makes the gameplay varied, and makes the gameplay different to other games. So I'm really, really proud of what we've done, what the excellent team here at Frontier have done. I'm sure you're playing with us. If you're just watching these videos for the first time, come and join us. It's great fun. Thank you.